In the farthest corner of the Andromeda spiral, where stars burned in hues unseen by human eyes and gravity danced to its own rhythm, stood the celestial spire of Zintra, a palace carved from living crystal that pulsed with the heartbeat of an ancient moon. It rose like a dream spun from light and shadow, its towers spiraling toward twin suns that painted the sky in molten gold and deep violet. This was the home of Princess Larissa, daughter of the late High Sovereign Zorvith and heir to the throne of the Velari Empire, a civilization so advanced their thoughts could bend time and their breath could ignite stars. She was not just royalty, she was legend, with skin the color of midnight oceans touched by auroras, deep blue shimmering with silver veins, and hair that flowed like liquid fire streaked with strands of white lightning. She moved through the palace halls like a storm wrapped in silk. Her eyes, large and luminous, glowed faintly crimson when stirred by emotion, and her voice carried the resonance of forgotten galaxies. Yet for all her power, grace, and unmatched beauty, Larissa remained unwed, despite having turned away over 1,000 suitors from across the cosmos. Each suitor had arrived in glory, warlords riding comet chariots drawn by six-headed star wolves, emperors encased in armor forged from collapsed neutron stars, scholars who recited the birth song of the universe backward while levitating, and poets whose words made flowers bloom on dead planets. Some brought gifts, entire constellations bottled in glass orbs, singing black holes harnessed into musical instruments, or rare creatures that whispered prophecies in dreams. Others came with armies, hoping to impress her with strength. Some came naked, claiming purity of soul, which only earned them swift exile. There were robotic lovers programmed to adore, shapeshifters who mimicked her every ideal, and even one tragic fellow who tried to propose via interpretive dance involving zero-gravity jellyfish, ending only when he got stuck in the ceiling chandelier for 3 days. But none moved her heart. None made her pulse flicker like a dying star reigniting. Each time, she would stand upon the obsidian balcony, gaze sweeping over them like a judge of fate, and say in that calm, echoing voice, "You are not the one," and with a wave of her hand, they were gone. Banished, teleported, vaporized, or gently floated back to their homeworlds depending on how badly they'd messed up the entry protocol. The court grew weary. The royal advisors, a council of 5 ancient beings who looked like walking libraries fused with octopuses, began holding secret meetings behind the veil of whispers. "She is too picky," argued Threx the Elder, his tentacles twitching in frustration. "We need alliances, trade routes, stability, not another century of her staring out windows sighing at shooting stars like their love letters." Others worried she might never choose, that the empire would fracture without a bonded sovereign. For tradition dictated the ruler must unite with a partner of equal or greater cosmic standing. Even the Palace AI, a sentient network named Orlon who controlled everything from weather patterns to toilet flushes, started playing romantic ballads during breakfast in a desperate attempt to set the mood. But Larissa didn't care. She wasn't waiting for power, prestige, or poetic metaphors about supernovas. Something deeper tugged at her soul, something the stars had whispered since childhood. A feeling that her other half wasn't among the grand and the glorious, but hidden somewhere unexpected, perhaps even beneath notice. Her mother, before vanishing into the cosmic mist during a ritual of ascension, had once told her, "True kings aren't crowned by others. They are recognized by silence." Larissa didn't understand it then. Now, she clung to those words like a lifeline in a sea of vanity. And so, life in the celestial spire continued. Lavish banquets under floating chandeliers, diplomatic summits where ambassadors argued over whether time should flow forward or spiral, training sessions where guards practiced fighting with thought alone, and endless parades of hopefuls arriving in increasingly ridiculous displays of ego. Until the day the Human Maintenance Exchange Program finally sent someone new. His name was Milo. Not a warrior, not a wizard, not a prince or prophet or interdimensional traveler. Just Milo, a short, slightly round man from Earth, planet of chaotic weather and inexplicable food combinations. He still couldn't believe people ate peanut butter with jelly. He wore a faded blue jumpsuit with the words, "Galactic Janitorial Corps. We clean where no one else dares," stitched crookedly over the chest. His hair was brown, unremarkable, and perpetually messy, as if he'd just woken from a nap in a wind tunnel. His shoes squeaked when he walked, which he did slowly, with the cautious gait of someone who had mopped floors slick enough to send a 4-armed Gorgaxian slipping into a fountain full of singing eels last week. He had been assigned to the lower service corridors of the palace, the steam tunnels, the waste filtration wings, the gravity adjustment basements, places even the cleaning drones avoided because the air tasted like regret and old math. Milo wasn't supposed to be seen. That was the rule. Service staff remained invisible, working in shadows, emerging only when summoned for spills, malfunctions, or the occasional emotional breakdown of a homesick alien noble. But on this particular morning, something went wrong. Or rather, something went perfectly right. Princess Larissa had risen early, unable to sleep after dreaming of a quiet figure standing in rain, holding a mop like a scepter. Annoyed, she decided to walk the East Wing Gardens, where bioluminescent orchids bloomed in sync with emotions. As she passed through the grand atrium, a vast hall with a ceiling so high it opened into space itself, she heard a sound unlike any other, the rhythmic swish, swish, swish of a mop on wet tile. Not the hum of automated cleaners, not the silent glide of anti-grav scrubbers, but real, honest, physical effort. Curious, she followed the sound down a narrow stairwell usually reserved for maintenance, past warning signs that read, "Unauthorized personnel will be teleported into sun," and emerged into a dimly lit corridor lined with pipes that hissed like sleeping serpents. There he was, a small, unassuming man, bent over a floor slick with glowing green slime, residue from a malfunctioning alchemy lab upstairs. He wore yellow rubber gloves 2 sizes too big, and a cap that said, "I survived Zeta Reticuli Laundry Day." His sleeves were rolled up, revealing forearms dusted with freckles and a faded tattoo that read, "Mom's Basement 2018. He pushed the mop with steady, deliberate strokes, humming a tune so soft it barely existed. Something about a yellow submarine. Sweat dotted his forehead. Every few minutes, he paused to wring out the mop into a bucket that burped occasionally, as if digesting something unpleasant. Larissa froze, not because he was handsome, though there was a warmth to his face, a kindness in the crinkle around his eyes when he smiled at nothing. Not because he was powerful, clearly he wasn't. Not even because he was strange, though he certainly was. It was the way he moved, with purpose, with dignity, like every stroke of the mop mattered. Like cleaning a filthy hallway was not beneath him, but a task worthy of his full attention. In a palace where everyone bowed, flashed, boasted, or begged, here was a man who simply did what needed doing, without fanfare, without expectation, without shame. Her breath caught, the air around her thickened, the silver veins in her skin flickered brighter. Her heart, which hadn't raced since the comet duel of '97, hammered against her ribs like a trapped bird. The red in her eyes blazed, not with anger, but recognition. Him. Couldn't be. He wasn't a king. Wasn't even a citizen of the galaxy. Wasn't blue or fiery or multi-limbed or capable of bending spacetime. He was human. From Earth. Population, messy. Technology, questionable. Culinary habits, concerning. And yet, who is that? She whispered, though no one was there to answer. At that very moment, Milo straightened, groaned softly, and stretched his back. "Man, I miss Swiffer," he muttered, eyeing the bucket with suspicion. Then, sensing he wasn't alone, he turned. Their eyes met. Time stopped, not metaphorically, literally. The Palace AI, Orlon, later confirmed a localized temporal anomaly lasting exactly 3.7 seconds. Gravity fluctuated. Lights dimmed. A flock of crystalline birds nesting in the upper ducts burst into spontaneous song. Even the pipes paused their hissing, as if holding their breath. Milo blinked. Hey, you lost? This is the sublevel hygiene zone. Public access is like super forbidden. I could get written up. Again. Larissa didn't respond. She stepped forward, each footfall echoing like a drumbeat across dimensions. Her gown, woven from starlight and silence, trailed behind her like a comet's tail. She stopped an arm's length away, studying him. The way his nose scrunched when he was nervous, the tiny scar above his eyebrow, the way he gripped the mop handle like it was the only thing keeping him grounded. "You're mopping," she said finally, voice low and trembling. "Yeah," Milo said, shrugging. "Floor was gross. Still kinda is. This goo won't come off. I think it's alive. And you do this every day?" "Well, yeah. That's the job. Floors get dirty, I clean 'em. Boss says if I finish early, I can take a break and eat my sandwich in the supply closet. It's got decent vibes." She stared at him, searching for deception, for arrogance, for any sign that this was a trick, a disguised prince, a test from the gods, a hologram. But there was nothing. Only honesty, only simplicity, only a man who believed that cleaning up messes was important, even when no one was watching. Something inside her cracked open. Without thinking, she reached out and touched the mop. It was cold, wet, humble, and yet, in that moment, it felt more regal than any crown ever forged. Back in the grand hall, the 1000th suitor, Prince Kvorn of the Iron Nebula, clad in armor that screamed when touched and riding a mechanical dragon made of recycled warships, was mid-proposal. He had just unleashed a symphony of exploding nebulae projected onto the ceiling, recited a poem written in the language of black hole radiation, and offered her dominion over 7 conquered galaxies. The entire court was on its feet, weeping, cheering, some fainting into the arms of their attendants. Then the palace alarms blared. Not the red emergency kind. The soft, urgent chime that meant royal presence detected in restricted area. Every head turned. The massive doors of the grand atrium creaked open. And there she was, Princess Larissa, barefoot, her ceremonial jewels gone, her hair loose and wild, walking not with the glide of royalty, but with the urgency of someone chasing destiny. And beside her, clutching a mop, looking utterly bewildered, his left shoe still squeaking, was Milo. Silence. Absolute, deafening silence. Kvorn's dragon sneezed, accidentally incinerating a tapestry depicting the founding of Zintra. The Council of Advisors froze mid-cheer. Threx dropped his data tablet, which immediately began screaming in binary sorrow. Even Orlan seemed stunned. The lights flickered. The music cut out. Somewhere a teacup shattered. Larissa stopped at the top of the marble steps, Milo hovering awkwardly beside her like a man waiting for security to tackle him. "I have found him," she announced, voice ringing through the hall like a bell forged in truth. "The one," whispered a noble woman, clutching her pearls. "The king," Larissa corrected. Gasps. Murmurs. Someone fainted. 2 people, actually. "But he's cleaning staff," sputtered Ambassador Glax from the methane worlds, his gills flaring in outrage. "He doesn't even have more than 2 legs. He has a mop," Larissa said simply, "and a heart that sees value in what others discard." "This is absurd," cried Prince Kvorn, dismounting his dragon with a clang. "I offered you galaxies. I sang the death song of dying stars. I have 12 hearts and breathe fire." Milo blinked. "That's cool, man. But have you ever gotten puke out of carpet with just paper towels and hope? That's a real skill." A beat. Then, from the back, a small giggle. Then another. Then a full laugh, rich, booming, from General Droznik, the 6-armed warlord who had once crushed a planet with his bare hands. "He's got a point," the general rumbled. "I once vomited after drinking fermented comet sap. Took 3 servants an hour. This guy's a hero." More laughter spread, hesitant at first, then growing. Even the stone-faced guards smirked. For the first time in centuries, the palace didn't feel like a museum of power. It felt alive. But not everyone was amused. High Oracle Vexus, the eldest of the council, slithered forward. His many eyes narrowed. "This is a mockery. The sovereign bond cannot be formed with a common laborer. The laws of the ancients forbid it. The stars themselves will rebel." Larissa turned to him, calm but unyielding. "Then let them rebel. The stars did not raise me. My mother's voice did. And she said the true king would not kneel for crowns. He would rise with a broom." Vexus hissed. "You would risk civil war? Alliance collapse? The fury of 1,000 scorned suitors? If it means I spend my life with a man who treats a mop like a sacred duty, then yes. Let the wars come. Let the skies burn. I will stand beside him, and we will clean up the mess together." Milo, meanwhile, was sweating. Your Highness? Princess? Ma'am? I don't want trouble. I just came to wipe up the spill. I can go. I'll write an apology note. I've got pens." She took his hand. It was small, warm, slightly damp from the mop water. And in that touch the universe shifted. The palace trembled. Not from anger but from awakening. The crystal walls hummed. The stars outside pulsed in rhythm. Orlan, after a long pause, played a single chord. A soft, beautiful note that hadn't been heard since the creation of the first sunrise. From that day on, nothing was the same. Milo was not crowned. He refused any title beyond head floor care specialist. But he moved into the West Wing, not in a royal chamber, but in a cozy suite retrofitted with extra mops, a snack fridge, and a shower that didn't sing opera every time you turned it on. A previous tenant had enchanted it, poorly. He kept his uniform, though the palace tailor insisted on embroidering tiny golden stars along the collar for dignity. He didn't learn to shoot plasma beams or speak in cosmic tongues. He did teach the royal staff how to use microfiber cloths properly, introduced weekly deep cleaning rotations, and banned the use of glitter in ceremonial halls. It gets everywhere, and it's not biodegradable. Yet somehow, his presence changed everything. Nobles stopped dueling over seating arrangements because Milo once calmly mopped between two feuding lords while saying, "Y'all really gonna fight over chairs? Look at this grape juice stain. That's a tragedy." They were so stunned. They apologized and helped him clean. Diplomatic tensions eased when Milo, unaware of a tense summit, entered the peace chamber to clean a coffee spill and said, "Hey, you guys want some wipes? You've got foam on your chin." Handing a napkin to the supreme commander of the Void Armada. The commander, after initial outrage, laughed so hard he signed a trade agreement on the spot. Even the palace gardens flourished. Milo had a habit of talking to plants while polishing nearby statues. "You're doing great, little guy," he'd say to a wilting fern. "Just hang in there. Sun's coming." And strangely, they always perked up. But not everyone accepted him. Prince Kvorn returned with an army of mechanized warriors, demanding a trial by combat. "No mere janitor shall steal what I earned through blood and stellar conquest." The challenge was accepted not by Milo, but by Larissa herself. She faced Kvorn on the field of echoes, where battles shaped destinies. She wore no armor, carried no weapon, only a single silver thread tied around her wrist. A gift from Milo, who had nodded at himself and said, "For luck." Kvorn roared, summoned a storm of flaming meteors, and charged. Larissa closed her eyes and spoke one word. "Stop." Not a shout, not a spell, just a command, gentle but absolute. The meteors froze midair. The ground ceased trembling. Kvorn stumbled, his weapons deactivating, his dragon whining like a puppy. "How?" he gasped. "She doesn't fight for power," came a voice. Milo stood at the edge of the field, mop in hand, wearing his work boots and a slightly nervous expression. "She fights for what matters. And right now, that's peace. So, maybe put the space sword down? We just waxed this battlefield." Kvorn looked at the polished ground, his reflection staring back with shame. He dropped his weapon and bowed. One by one, the scorned suitors came, not for revenge but understanding. The poet who danced with jellyfish admitted he only wanted fame. The emperor in neutron star armor confessed he feared loneliness. The shapeshifter wept, saying he'd spent eternity being whoever others wanted, never knowing himself. Milo listened, offered sandwiches, sometimes a mop, and slowly the palace transformed. Not into a humble shack, but into a place where greatness wasn't measured by conquest, but by care. Where status didn't matter as much as sincerity. Where even the smallest act, wiping a table, holding a door, cleaning a spill, was seen as sacred. Larissa ruled with wisdom, but Milo? He ruled with kindness. And when the stars whispered at night, they no longer spoke of distant wars or collapsing galaxies. They sang of a blue-skinned princess and a human with a mop, dancing in the moonlight of a foreign world, laughing as they cleaned up spilled stardust, together. The peace that settled over the celestial spire was not the silence of victory, nor the hush of submission. It was the deep, steady breath of something new being born, the kind of calm that follows a storm not because the wind has died, but because the world has finally learned how to dance with it. And in the heart of that calm stood Milo and Larissa. She, a princess forged in cosmic fire. He, a man who once burned toast trying to make breakfast for his cat. Their love did not bloom in grand declarations or starlit vows, though there were moments when the heavens themselves seemed to pause just to watch them. It grew in quiet things. The way Milo left a clean towel folded neatly by her bath every morning, infused with the scent of earth lavender, imported illegally from a black market botanist on Mars. The way Larissa began waking early just to sit beside him while he mopped the east corridor, her bare feet tucked under her as she watched him work, eyes glowing softly like embers in twilight. He never asked her to kneel. She never asked him to rise. They simply were two souls orbiting each other in perfect, unforced rhythm. But love, especially one that defies galaxies, is never without its storms. The first came not from war, nor jealousy, nor political scheming, but from memory. One evening, as they sat beneath the sky garden's floating lanterns, watching twin moons rise over the crystal peaks, Larissa grew still. Her fingers, usually warm and restless, went cold in Milo's hand. "You don't belong here," she whispered. He frowned. "What? I mean, yeah, technically I'm from Ohio, But the air recycling system says I'm metabolically compatible. She shook her head, her fiery hair dimming like dying flame. Not your body. Your life. You gave up everything, your world, your people, your ordinary days. And for what? To mop floors in a palace that doesn't understand you. Milo stared at her. You think I regret this? I fear you will, she said. One day, you'll look around and realize you traded sunrises on Earth for artificial gravity and singing pipes. That you kissed a blue-skinned alien instead of growing old with someone who shares your sky. He laughed. A soft, genuine sound that made her flinch, as if joy were a weapon. Larissa, he said gently. I used to wake up in a tiny apartment above a laundromat, listening to my neighbor's dog bark at ghosts. My biggest dream was getting promoted to night shift supervisor. I ate ramen for 3 meals a day and thought adventure meant trying a new flavor of soda. He squeezed her hand. And then I met you, the most impossible, beautiful, terrifying woman in the universe. And suddenly, mopping slime out of a hallway felt like saving the world. Because it led me to you. So no, I don't regret a single spilled bucket. Tears shimmered in her crimson eyes. Not from sadness, but awe. No one had ever spoken to her like this. Not as a goddess, not as a sovereign, but as a woman loved for who she was, not what she represented. Still, the universe wasn't done testing them. Weeks later, a signal pierced the veil of space. A transmission encoded in the oldest Velari tongue, one only royal blood could decipher. It came from beyond the veil of forgotten stars, a region so dark even light refused to enter. The message was fragmented, but the words chilled the palace to its core. She lives. Larissa paled. Her mother, High Queen Nalthea, was believed to have dissolved into the cosmic mist during the Ascension ritual, a sacred process meant to merge her consciousness with the fabric of existence. But the ritual had never been fully understood. Some said she became a guardian of time. Others claimed she was lost forever. Now this, Orlan decrypted more. Trapped between life and void, only bond of true king and chosen queen can open the gate. Milo groaned. So let me get this straight. Your mom's stuck in some cosmic limbo, and we have to... What? Hold hands and wish real hard. Worse, Larissa said. We must journey to the Rift of Echoes, where time folds back on itself. The path is guarded by the Hollow Ones, beings who were once kings and queens who failed their trials. And the gate only opens once every 1,000 years. She looked at him. It opens tomorrow. Milo stared. So we're going on a quest. With monsters. And riddles. Probably snakes. Why is it always snakes? It won't be safe, she warned. You could die. He shrugged. Dude. Last week I slipped on a banana peel and a rogue tribble. I'm already living on borrowed time. They prepared in secret. Larissa armed herself with the blade of stillness, a weapon that cut not flesh, but lies. Milo packed his trusty mop, now upgraded with anti-grav assist and a built-in stain detector, and a backpack full of earth snacks, in case we get hungry between dimensions. Nothing says courage like beef jerky. They left under cover of night, slipping through a hidden portal in the library's poetry section, which, according to Orlan, was the least observed location due to low foot traffic and excessive metaphors. The Rift of Echoes was not a place. It was an absence, a wound in reality where past, present, and future bled together. The sky was neither dark nor light, but shifting layers of forgotten moments, ghosts of conversations, echoes of laughter, shadows of choices never made. The ground crunched like broken glass, yet gave way like water. Time stuttered. One moment, Milo was 12 again, riding a bike. The next, he was ancient, gray-haired, whispering Larissa's name with his final breath. Larissa took his hand. Don't let go. The rift feeds on doubt. They hadn't gone far when the Hollow Ones appeared, tall, faceless figures draped in tattered crowns, their voices a chorus of regret. You are not worthy, they intoned. Love is not enough. Power is required. Sacrifice must be paid. A bridge materialized before them, thin, swaying, made of light and memory. Beneath it churned a river of lost souls, screaming in languages long dead. The trial begins, Larissa whispered. One by one, the Hollow Ones tested them. To Larissa, would you rule alone if it meant peace? She hesitated. Then, no. A throne without love is a tomb. To Milo, would you give up your world to save hers? He didn't pause. I already did, but I'd do it again, even if all I got was a lousy raise. The bridge held. Next came the chamber of mirrors, where reflections showed not their faces, but their fears. Milo saw himself back on Earth, forgotten, irrelevant, dying alone in a hospital bed while the universe moved on without him. Larissa saw Milo turning away from her, saying, "I was just passing through," before vanishing into a crowd of humans who couldn't see her, couldn't hear her, couldn't love her. They trembled. But then Milo did something unexpected. He grabbed a mop from thin air because apparently the rift respected janitorial dedication, and smashed the nearest mirror. "Enough," he said, voice firm. "I don't care what you show me. I know what's real. And she's right here." Larissa smiled through tears. Together, they shattered every mirror, until only truth remained. At last, they reached the Gate of Breath, a massive archway woven from frozen starlight and silence. In its center hovered a figure, translucent, radiant, suspended between worlds. Queen Nalthea. Her form flickered, half Velari, half energy. Her eyes filled with eons of wisdom and sorrow. "My daughter," she breathed. "You found him." Larissa stepped forward. "Mother, we've come to bring you home." Nalthea's gaze fell on Milo. "You are not of power, not of lineage, not of our kind." Milo swallowed. "Nope, just a guy with a mop and decent cardio." A faint smile touched the queen's lips. "Then tell me, mortal, why should I return? The universe is cruel. Kings fall, love fades, empires turn to dust." Milo looked at Larissa, then back at the ghostly queen. "Because someone should be there to clean up the mess," he said. "And because love doesn't fade. Not real love. Yeah, stuff breaks. People screw up. Worlds end. But you keep showing up. You wipe the floor. You say sorry. You try again." He shrugged. "That's what matters. Not being perfect. Just being there." Silence. Then the gate pulsed. A single note rang out, pure, clear, like the first sound after creation. Nalthea reached out. Her fingers brushed Larissa's cheek, then Milo's. "You have saved me," she whispered. "Not with strength, not with magic, but with truth." The rift trembled. Light exploded outward. When it faded, the queen stood before them. Solid, alive, though changed. Her skin now threaded with gold, her presence humming with quiet power. They returned to Zintra as heroes. But triumph rarely comes without consequence. Back at the palace, High Oracle Vexus had seized the moment of their absence. With whispers and forged records, he declared Larissa unfit, enchanted by a foreigner, corrupted by sentiment, and crowned himself regent of the Velari Empire. The council was divided, the military hesitant, the people confused. And then, the final twist. Vexus revealed his true plan: to activate the heart of Zintra, an ancient engine buried beneath the palace that could rewrite reality itself. He would erase Milo from existence, not just from history, but from possibility, ensuring he had never been born, never drawn breath, never held a mop. "He does not belong," Vexus proclaimed from the obsidian balcony. "And love that defies order must be erased." The machine roared to life, gears grinding across dimensions, reality fraying at the edges. Milo knew what he had to do. He didn't fight, didn't plead, didn't demand justice. Instead, he walked, slowly, calmly, into the central chamber, mop in hand, and began to clean. Not the floor, the machine. Piece by piece, he wiped away the grime, the rust, the tangled wires clogged with neglect. He hummed that same submarine tune. He talked to the machine like it was a stubborn stain. "Come on, buddy. You don't want to do this. You were built to protect, not destroy." And something miraculous happened. The heart of Zintra responded. For centuries, it had been fed commands of control, domination, purity. But Milo treated it with care, with patience, with kindness. This rhythm slowed, this fury stilled. The golden gears shone brighter. And then, with a sound like a sigh, it shut down. Not destroyed, not defeated, healed. Vexus screamed in rage. "You cannot win with kindness. This is not a nursery." "No," Milo said, standing tall for the first time. "It's a palace, and palaces need cleaning, especially the parts everyone ignores." The court erupted. Nobles rose. Guards lowered weapons. Even the statues seemed to nod. Larissa stepped forward, her mother at her side, both radiating power beyond measure. "Vexus," Larissa said, "you sought to erase love because you feared its chaos. But chaos is not weakness. It is life. And Milo, he doesn't bring order. He brings care. And that is the greatest force in any universe. Vexus was stripped of rank, not punished, but given a new role, keeper of the lower corridors. His first task? Mop the alchemy spill. He lasted 2 hours before asking for help. Peace returned, but deeper than peace, understanding. Milo never became a warrior, never learned to shoot stars from his hands. But he founded the Order of the Humble Hand, janitors, cooks, gardeners, repairmen, who were granted seats in the royal council. Every kingdom runs on invisible work, he said. Let's stop pretending otherwise. And late at night, when the stars burned soft and the palace slept, Milo and Larissa would walk the halls together, side by side, sometimes mopping, sometimes dancing, always laughing. Once, she asked him, "Do you ever miss Earth?" He thought, "Sometimes. But then I remember I carry it with me. In my socks. In my snacks. In the way I love you. Home isn't a place. It's a person. And mine's got blue skin and red hair and laughs at my terrible jokes." Years folded into decades like pages of a well-loved book, and the celestial spire hummed with new life. Laughter, once rare and formal, now echoed through crystal halls, bright, unguarded, childlike. Milo and Larissa had 3 children, each more extraordinary than the last, each proof that love could weave stars into blood. The eldest, Kira, had her mother's deep blue skin and glowing crimson eyes, but her father's mischievous grin and an uncanny talent for fixing broken appliances with duct tape and hope. She refused royal tutors and instead apprenticed under the head engineer, declaring, "If I'm gonna rule someday, I need to know how the toilets work." Next came Jax, a whirlwind with white-streaked red hair and Milo's freckled nose. He could float objects with his mind, a Veilari gift, but preferred using it to make his cereal dance at breakfast. "Gravity's overrated," he'd say before launching a spoon into orbit around his head. The youngest, little Z, was quiet, thoughtful, born with silver veins that pulsed when she dreamed. She spoke rarely, but when she did, the palace AI paused to listen. Her favorite pastime? Sitting beside Milo in the service tunnels, helping him mop while whispering secrets to the pipes. Larissa ruled with wisdom, but now with softer shoulders. Milo still wore his jumpsuit, though Orlan upgraded it with self-cleaning fabric and built-in snack pockets. He taught the children not combat or cosmic law, but how to wipe a spill before it became a scandal, how to listen more than speak, how to find dignity in every task, no matter how small. The palace changed. Formal dinners turned into family feasts where nobles ate peanut butter sandwiches and debated the merits of pizza toppings. The Grand Hall hosted mud pie contests, judged by General Droznik. The once sacred meditation garden now had a swing set. Even Queen Nalthea smiled, watching from the balcony as Milo chased Z through sprinklers made of stardust, both soaked and laughing. One evening, beneath a sky painted with drifting comets, the family gathered on the sky terrace. Kira repaired a drone. Jax floated a bowl of popcorn. Z leaned against Milo half asleep. Larissa rested her head on Milo's shoulder. "Did you ever imagine this?" she whispered. He grinned. "I used to dream of a promotion to floor manager. This is way better." She laughed, and the stars above shimmered in response. No fanfare marked the moment. No prophecy fulfilled. No battle won. Just a man, a princess, and their children, bathed in starlight, surrounded by love that had cleaned not just floors, but hearts. And somewhere, in the silence between breaths, the universe smiled. For the greatest legacy was not a throne, nor a kingdom, nor a name etched in cosmic stone. It was a mop passed from hand to hand, a lesson whispered, care matters, and a family, impossible, joyful, perfectly imperfect, living happily ever after, one swish at a time.